Scaling your law firm doesn't have to be difficult. It's all about mastering a few key strategies, systems, and mindsets. Welcome to the Scalable Law Podcast, where we talk about how you can increase profit in your pocket and time in your calendar. My name is Carolee Fontanelli, and I have successfully scaled my firm so that it doesn't solely rely on me. Now I love teaching other law firm owners how to do the same. Let's transform your business starting now. Welcome to the Scalable Law Podcast. Today we have a very special guest on the podcast. Her story is absolutely incredible and empowering. If you are a law firm owner at any stage, or if you're thinking about going out on your own, this is definitely a podcast for you. Today, we have Rin Kim from Rin Kim Law on the podcast. Now, what makes her super special is that she has grown her law firm from 0 to a team of 10 in the last 3 years. And not only that, but she is also in an area of law that is particularly challenging to get started in, and that is in personal injury law. So Rin's story is really amazing. She is one of our accelerator participants in the Scalable Law program, and she's just doing amazing things, and she's got a really great vision for her firm. So I hope you enjoy listening to the podcast as much as I enjoyed interviewing her. If you would love to know more about joining either the Accelerator program, which is for law firm owners that have a turnover of more than $1 million and a team of more than 5 people, or Scalable Law, which is from your startup to your $1 million, then I would love to have a chat with you. Head on over to scalablelaw.com and make an appointment to talk with me. We will come up with a strategy together and work out how you can get your firm to the next level in the next 12 months. So for now, let me hand over to the interview I did with Rin Kim. So I would love to welcome Rin Kim to the podcast. I'm super excited to have you on the podcast, Rin, because I've learned lots since I've been working with you, and I love what you've created, and I really think that a lot of people will really enjoy your story, and it will be super inspirational. So thanks for joining us.
Oh, thank you for inviting me.
You're welcome. So tell us about, because your firm isn't that old, but you've already, you haven't been going that long yet. But you've already created an incredible presence and a massive success for yourself. So tell us a little bit about where you're located, when you started your firm, and what practice area you're in.
Yeah, so we are based here in the Brisbane city, and I started the law practice so it was exactly 3 years ago, and we only specialize in personal injuries law. And it's already a team of 9, so which is quite exciting. Yeah.
That's amazing. So that's a really huge growth in only 3 years. I bet you found some of it really exciting, but I also bet you found some of it challenging as well. What do you think has been sort of the biggest challenge with growing so fast?
I think the biggest challenge would be because of the nature of a personal injuries industry. I had to really watch carefully when it came down to cash flow.
Yes.
And also just dealing with the multiple personalities in a team, because, it's my first time being a director of a company, managing a team of like certain size. It's quite different compared to when I was a manager as well.
Yes.
So, yeah.
So you've niched down into personal injury, which I'm really interested to talk about, because I do talk to a lot of personal injury lawyers who really want to go out on their own, but there's so much fear, particularly with personal injury law, around, like you said, that cash flow, because you're getting clients in the door, but then it might be, I don't know how long it takes to get a settlement, but it might be 6 or 12 or 24 months before you get a settlement, which means that you don't get paid for that long. So how have you managed that, and what would be your advice to anyone sort of in personal injury wanting to go out on their own?
So I guess it was really easy for me to start on my own right away because I actually don't have any kids. So I only got my cat. I just needed to worry about just need to feed myself and my cat. And
Yes.
I do have a mortgage, but I mean, I was thinking, I just had a very low expectation to begin with, because I think if you just really, set yourself high up, then, you might be disappointed in the beginning. And it's like a long journey, like
Yes.
never ending journey. And yeah, I just lived really frugally in the beginning, didn't spend a lot, had a lot of ramen noodles.
Yeah. So with that, when did you employ your first full-time person in your firm? Because that's a big step, right?
Yeah, so that happened actually not that long ago, which would have been it was only 2 or 3 months after I started my practice.
Yeah, you realized you needed some help.
That's when it got to a point where I couldn't juggle everything at the same time, because I was staying up till like 2 a.m. every single day.
Eating ramen noodles.
Just, juggling, like, working on clients' files. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So who was the first employee? Was that a lawyer or was that an admin assistant?
He was a junior lawyer. And I mean, looking back, I think I should have really hired a very experienced senior lawyer instead.
Yes.
Because, I mean, he was great, but I really needed someone to just, who was able to help me out with the file work. But
Yes.
I had to like train him, and it was a bit frustrating.
Yes, and I think that that's a big mistake that a lot of law firm owners make, because, and I can see why people do that, and it's because it's a lot less expensive and it seems less risky. But then the difficulty is that because you're then spending a lot more time training, you're not necessarily freeing up your time.
I know. So, I mean, it worked out in the end, but if I go back in time, then I would probably hire someone really experienced.
Yeah, right. I definitely agree with you. That's exactly what I would do as well, is get the experienced person, and not so much someone who you need to spend a lot of time with. So
Yeah.
when I'm looking at your firm online, which I see online all of the time,
Yep.
you have created a really strong presence and a really strong brand. How have you gone about doing that? Did you have a presence before you went out on your own, or is that something that you've really created since you've started your own firm?
So before I started my law practice, to be honest with you, I never really focused too much on like personal branding or even networking. It's only when I started my company that's when I really focused on that. I think when I first started, I try to focus a lot on personal branding, because everyone needs to know what you do.
Yes.
You just need to promote yourself. And I think a lot of lawyers, they're a bit shy about it.
Yes.
They don't really want to start posting a lot and things. I mean, like, I'm a little bit still shy about it, but like, I have no choice because I'm a company director now. So
yes, and you're hungry to be successful, right? Because that's what you've set out to do, and obviously you're really driven, because to get to where you are in only 3 years is no small task at all.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I'm very driven, have big plans, and yeah, we're not there yet. So yeah.
You're midway or you're in the journey. So when it comes to branding your firm and your own personal brand, what part do you find the most challenging, and how do you sort of overcome it? Because you said you still sometimes feel shy, but you know you just have to do it.
I think a lot of people in general, they're really scared about, what others would say about them. And there will always be, haters out there. But at the same time, you could possibly inspire some people, to be brave as well. So you really should just focus on what you really need to do. Think about your vision, what you need to do to get there. And yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So your practice area is personal injury, but
Yep.
you're also Korean, and you've created a niche where you employ a lot of Korean staff, and I'm gathering as well that a lot of your clientele is Korean. How much of niching do you think that has helped the growth of your business?
It did help me a lot in the beginning because, as you already know, personal injuries industry, it's very competitive. Well, I'm sure it's the same thing for family law, but personal injuries, you drive down on the highway, you see multiple like signage for like PI law firms.
Yes. And the large ones in personal injury as well, like unlike family law, for example, we don't have big competitors in terms of like huge corporations, whereas in personal injury law, you've got some giant publicly listed businesses that you're competing with.
So I think it did definitely help me a lot, and I do appreciate, all the support that I got from the Korean community. But at the same time, we are more diversified now.
Yes.
And that's where my focus is at right now, trying to expand into, multiple other different markets.
Yeah. And how are you going about doing that?
So we do have a Chinese speaking lawyer, Benjamin, and he's now focusing on the Chinese community. And at the same time, we do have a Vietnamese speaking lady. So, I'm trying to, focus more on multicultural like groups at the moment. And yeah, hopefully.
Yeah, that's awesome. And I love it because if I was a Korean or a Vietnamese or a Chinese living in Brisbane or Australia, I would personally feel so much more comfortable if I could have this sort of advice in my own language. So it's actually like really clever the way that you're approaching it. And I definitely can see that using your culture to niche has made a really like big impact, I think, on your firm, which is really, really awesome. So when you're in your firm, how many people in your firm are Korean and how many people are other cultures?
So I think about half of us, we are Korean at the moment, and remaining are different. Well, like I would say just Australian. They were all born here. So
yes.
So it's a good mix, I would say, at the moment.
And so how do you deliver your service in terms of depending on the client as to whether you deliver your service in English or Korean, or how does that work?
Yeah, so I guess a client communication, most of our clients actually, they do speak English, but Koreans in general, even if they do speak English, they prefer to talk in Korean.
Yes.
Because they're a bit shy about talking in English. So that's why we got Korean speaking lawyers, Korean speaking legal assistants, and we do have some Chinese speaking clients. And if they're not able to, let's say, communicate in English, then the receptionist will pretty much just transfer the call directly onto the right person.
Yeah, I love that. That's really cool. And yeah, it is great to find a niche. I always believe that if you can really niche down, it can, even though it feels scary to niche, it can actually cause a lot more success in your firm because people know where to go when they have an issue, right?
Yeah, because I mean, like what you said, there are massive big corporations in the PI industry, and it's impossible to compete with them because they're everywhere.
Yes.
So you just need to find a way to really stand out, I think.
Yeah, that's it. And so you've now got this large team, and you've never been a company director before. How have you found, or what's been your biggest sort of learning curve when it comes to leading or growing a team?
Uh, I think the biggest challenge would be just wearing multiple hats because I mean it's gotten a lot better because thanks to you, your program, you know, I've managed to put in the right system, and now, yeah, I was able to go to Vancouver, Canada, and stay there for little more than a week, and nothing disastrous stuff was happening when I was away. So which
That's
was
awesome. And you were even giving some of your initial appointments to some of your team members.
yes, and they did an amazing job. So actually, September was one of the biggest months for us for sign up.
Yeah, that's awesome. And so delegating and letting go has been a challenge.
Just wearing multiple hats, I would say, because I still have to do a lot of things being a company director, such as like HR manager, bookkeeper,
Yes.
business development manager. So like because I obviously don't have any expertise in those areas, but I still need to push myself to be
Yeah,
good.
that's it. And so you've got a big vision for your firm. What does the future hold for Rin Kim Law?
Uh, well, like I think I always tell people that ultimate goal is for us to become the biggest multicultural law firm here in Brisbane. Um, I know that that's a very big, ambitious goal, but you gotta set your goal high.
You do. And if anyone can do it, I think you can because you're so driven.
Thank you. And not just that, but I want to build a company where every employee is, happy coming into work and, you know, being able to benefit from the company's success. Because I think, running a company is not all about you, benefiting, taking 100% from the company profit, but rather sharing it with the team.
Yes.
I mean, it's like a team effort. So they also need to be able to take advantage of the success, I think.
Yes, absolutely. And I think as a company director, as we grow our firm, it becomes less about the clients because we're not client facing as much because we're doing so many other tasks in the firm.
Yeah.
It becomes more about creating impact through your team, right? So creating security and jobs and giving people really good, packages and salaries so that they can have a nice life as well. So what, in terms of remote work and things like that, what have you got in place in your firm?
We don't do that at the moment. We used to, but I'm very old fashioned in that way because I do believe that everyone needs to be in the same space in order to work well as a team.
Yes. Yeah, it definitely helps, doesn't it? I think there's a lot to be said for being in person versus being remote. And just also with juniors and things like that, I've personally found it really hard to balance their want for being at working from home, but then their need for training.
Yeah. I mean, when it comes to very experienced staff, I wouldn't mind them working from home if they live really far away from the office. But I mean, if it's only 15 minutes away from the city, then why don't you just come into the office? So,
Yes. And I've seen
yeah,
on social media,
yeah,
you have created a really great like together culture. You know, you're going out to lunches you're with your team,
yeah.
and you're doing lots of really great, you know, team building and things like that. How much of an impact do you think that has on the team?
I think team culture is the number one key to the success when it comes to building a successful company. Because everyone needs to get along, but at the same time they need to have the same goals and vision.
Yes.
And I think we definitely have that at Rin Kim Law. Yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome. So, what is sort of in store for you in the next sort of say 5 years? Where's the vision for the firm in 5 years' time? Because I know that you don't necessarily want to be just a Brisbane-based firm.
Uh, Ultimately, I do want it to be more of a national law firm. Like I do want to have an office in Sydney, Melbourne, up in North Queensland, but it will cost a lot of money. So I guess I'll just focus on the Brisbane office first and make sure that we can get there, just baby step at a time.
Yes, get all your systems in place so that you can duplicate it really, really simply into the next spot. I think if you can have everything running really well where you're not required anymore,
Yeah.
so more holidays over to Canada where you can experiment stepping away and seeing how the firm runs without you. When you've got everything running like a well-oiled machine, it's very easy just to duplicate that and put another Rin Kim down in Sydney or Melbourne or wherever it might be.
Yeah, that would be amazing, and that is the plan. But I guess I'll see how it goes.
Well, you are doing amazingly well to this point. I think, you know, it's really inspirational starting from zero to having 10 employees or, you know, and a big team. It's actually really incredible. And I think that you downplay how, you know, successful and how fast it's gone. Because, you know, there's a lot of people still trying to find their feet and within 3 years. And I was certainly one of those people where, you know, the team wasn't growing as fast as I wanted because I just didn't have the ability or the skills to get there. So you've managed to do that, and in a really tricky practice area as well. Because I do think that, you know, with personal injury, there are real you know, cash flow. You have to be careful with all of that because of the way that you get paid.
Yeah.
So now that you've got your firm to a certain level, do you find that that's all eased up a little bit?
Um, I don't really have to worry too much about cash flow at the moment. However, we do have quite a large team, and also outgoings, it's quite a lot. So
Yes.
I always have a close eye on it all the time, and have a really good relationship with my accountant, I would say.
Yes, yeah. I think that could be quite a shock, can't it, when you look at what the break-even point is when your team is larger and you think, holy moly, like I have to make that much. Like 3 years ago, you probably weren't even thinking about making that much at all, let alone that being the base cost of your expenses. And
Yeah,
I mean, feeding a team of 10 people is expensive. That's a huge salary or wage expense every week.
not just that, but office rent, IT services, marketing fees, so on, and taxes. Oh, that's like one of
Yes,
the biggest expenses.
it really is a killer. So when
Yeah.
it comes to marketing, what type of marketing are you doing in your firm to bring work in the door?
I think we are pretty much doing everything that what others are doing. newspaper, website. Also, we just started Google Ads.
And how's that going for you?
It's okay. But I feel like I need to get back into more of a networking because
yeah.
I haven't really been doing that too much compared to when I first started the law practice. So yeah, I think it's really important to create valuable relationships with the other professionals.
Yes, that's right. So you're doing like a really good sort of mix of organic marketing, you're doing some paid ad marketing, and you're also doing networking. And I think I'm exactly the same as you. I've been a little bit slack this last year in terms of getting out there and networking. And you realize that, you're now not getting as many referrals as you could be. So you've got to, dip back in and start, working on that referral network again. But it sounds to me like you haven't put all your eggs in one basket to get your firm to the success that it is now. You've diversified all your marketing.
Yeah. But to be honest with you, it's always in the back of my mind. Oh, are we signing enough people so that we can feed everyone in the company? Are we settling enough so that the company is generating enough money? Yes, it's going well for now, but it's constantly in my mind. I'm always thinking about the future.
Yes.
And that's why it really pushes me to do more and more. Okay, let's do this and that because, I need to try harder. And in a way, I think it's good. It motivates me to do more.
I think what you're describing is, I think so many people can relate to that, people who are listening. And it's sort of like business owner anxiety, isn't it? Like,
yeah.
What if things dry up? Or what if I have a really bad month next month? Or what if, this lucky streak isn't going to keep going? And I think, it's not that you're on a lucky streak. It's that you've put in the hard work and you're continuing to put in the hard work. And that's why you've got the success that you have. And I think that it's really important that we learn as business owners that on this journey, we just have to keep tweaking and, tweaking and moving things forward that way, rather than sometimes what we do is we think things aren't working, so we throw them out. But, tweaking, you've realized you need to get back out networking again. So, tweak that by 10%, tweak your ads by 10%, tweak your organic marketing by 10%. And those small percentages can make massive, massive improvements in our firm's performance. So, yeah, I think you're doing awesome. And that little bit of anxiety, I think, gives us the hunger to create the success. So it's kind of required in a way.
I think it's important to stay humble, like when you're a company director, because I know that some people out there, once they start making money, they go out and buy crazy stuff and start spending like a billionaire.
Yes. And I was just sitting next to someone at lunch the other week, and they worked for a practice here on the Gold Coast that quite a few years ago they went bankrupt because they weren't staying humble. They'd get a big settlement and then they'd go and buy something luxurious with it rather than investing it back into the company. And I think investing back in is really important as well.
Yes. And I mean, I do have a much better lifestyle compared to when I was an employee. However,
you're not eating any more ramen noodles.
No, but I mean, I'm not like, going out and buying a crazy Lamborghini or, like some of other PI lawyers who went crazy with their money and lost everything. Yeah. Yes.
Staying humble, I think, is really important. I've noticed as well that women directors, we do seem to stay a little more humble and cautious. I don't know if it's that little bit of anxiety that keeps you cautious, or but making sure that the longevity is there. And that's something that's really important because we are responsible for a lot of people.
Yes, and I guess, you have to stay humble and not be so arrogant, because arrogance will obviously deter so many people away. And like, people, they want to work with the others who are like genuine, and who are likable. So I think I don't know whether people like me, but I try my best to, be a likable.
Well, you're doing a great job attracting clients, and you're doing a great job attracting a really good, solid team. So I would say that you're very likable, Rin.
Thank you. Yeah.
And it's important because you're exactly right. Like, people do want to surround themselves with other people who are genuine.
Yeah.
I think something that's probably really appealing for your team as well is that you're really genuine, but you also have a vision for your firm, where you want to take it. And who doesn't want to be part of a firm that's successful and got a solid vision for the future, which is what you've created?
I guess another thing that I wanted to mention was something that happened to me recently. So I actually have a tendency to just go up to a team member and start if they, let's say, make a mistake and I pick up on it, I get really pissed off right away because I have a very short temper.
Yeah.
We have an open space office, and so I used to go up to the person and I'll be like, oh, hey, like, what are you doing, sort of thing. But like, I didn't know that was coming across as a little bit mean.
Yes, yeah. And I think the thing too is that everyone takes things differently. If someone maybe came up to you and said that, it wouldn't be a problem for you. But for some people, it's too much, right?
Well, like a senior lawyer in my company, he did point that out to me. And that's when I realized, oh, no, like, I'm being a horrible person. And that's when it really hit me, and I was quite emotional about it. And I think I really appreciate the fact that he told me about it, because like my behavior would have continued on like that, if it wasn't for him. So
yes. So it's all part of I think the leadership journey, right? Like, we're not born to lead 10 employees, highly skilled lawyers.
Yeah.
But you're learning how to, and it's only been 3 years, so it's a really quick growth curve for you. So it's really awesome that you're able to not be offended at the comment made, and rather to learn and think about how you can improve your leadership.
Yeah, I think that's really important because, a lot of law firm owners, they probably would have not taken that well. They would be like, oh, like quite offended. But
well, that's hard feedback to hear. It's really hard feedback when we hear that we've upset someone, or that our behavior isn't in line with how people want to be treated.
Yeah, but that's it was a chance for me to look back and, look at myself and reassess how I'm doing. So I get that now, and I'll make sure that I'll be a better leader. Yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome. And so you are in the accelerator program in scalable law. So tell us what your biggest learnings have been in that program.
Setting up the right structure. I think that's been really helpful. Well, before I started your program, I don't think there wasn't any real structure in place, and I wasn't comfortable enough to the point that I would book a flight to go to Canada.
Yes.
Since I started your program, I felt, oh, now I can go. Yeah.
Yeah, that's right. So the aim of the accelerator program is to put some structure and some systems in place so that the firm's not reliant on you, because you're not the one doing everything, and you've got a system in place that kind of does everything for you, as well as we do some leadership kind of training in there as well, which I believe it doesn't matter what stage you're at in your journey as a law firm owner, whether you're 1 year in or whether you're like 30 years in. I think there's always new things to learn and more to learn when it comes to leadership, because we run a people business, right? So it's a massive pace.
And it's amazing to be able to talk to like-minded individuals, on a somewhat of a regular basis, because all of the other members, they're kind of at a similar kind of stage within their company. So we got like a lot of things to talk about, and similarities and same concerns. So yes. I think that's really cool. Yeah.
Yeah, it is. And I think, there is a difference between a law firm owner who's trying to get to their first million, when you're revenue per year, because you're working on really marketing and getting enough cash flow through the door and hiring your first few team members. But when you've grown a team like you have to 10 and you're well over the $1 million a year turnover, then your challenges change. It becomes, how do I get things off my plate and systemize? How do I delegate out to the team? How do I become a better leader? How do I structure this machine so that it can be well-oiled and run without me? Because one of the similarities between everyone in the accelerator program is that they've got really great cash flow, really good turnovers, and really great teams in place, but they're still all working too hard. Too many hours. So the goal is to get the hours down, get you on holidays where you can turn the phone off and you don't have to stress about what's happening back at the office.
Or like for me, I'm not doing as much file work at the moment, which really helps me to do more of like business development and marketing work.
Yes.
And today I'm actually going to have a training session with the team on marketing and business development stuff. So I guess it's giving me more time to do things with my team as well.
Yeah. And it takes you need creative space, right, to put those kinds of things together.
Yeah. Because if I'm constantly doing meetings, file work, then I wouldn't have any time for the other stuff.
Exactly. So for everyone who's listening who would love to look at your website, find you, refer personal injury clients to you, or maybe come and work with you, where will they find you, Rin?
Yeah, you can just Google the company name, Rin Kim Law, or just add me on LinkedIn and say hi.
That's awesome. Well, it's been really cool talking to you and hearing about your amazing growth and success to this point. I would love to have you back on the podcast in, say, 3 years from now and see how things are, because I just can feel that it's going to be, completely different in 3 years' time, because you're not slowing down by any stretch. So, lovely to have you on the podcast.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you for listening to the Scalable Law Podcast, brought to you by the Scalable Business Lounge. If you would love to know how you can get more clients without relying on referrals, head over to scalablelaw.com to watch my free masterclass. Until next time, you have got this.